Air People Better, April 23rd, 2026. This is all my whittling stuff. Get everything situated up here. All right. So one interesting thing about this whole whittling thing, so like this feels like it's straight up real leather. Like it really feels like it. And one of the things about it is like when I first got it, here's the blade that I got with it. This set was 20 bucks. I could not put this in here. I had to like turn it around, stick the handle in there and like wrench it around and stuff. Meanwhile, I got a blade sticking out. I'm like, I'm a rogue. That sucks. Because if you've ever watched the Sword Guys on YouTube, they've basically proven that reverse grip just doesn't really do much. There are very few circumstances where reverse grip is actually good. Anyway, so it took approximately 2 hours to turn one of these into one of these. And on top of that, the shavings. I kept the shavings because I wanted like an indication of like how much I'd actually done to the wood, but also because it smells nice. And so I'm using it as bathroom potpourri because I fucking hate potpourri smells. I hate flowery smells because it drives me up the fucking wall ever since I was a kid. And then, you know, what did I do? I got some scented fucking soap because I didn't read enough. And this is my first foray into trying to get the toneberry shape that I want to get. So I've got his little head up there, the tail sticking out, and then, you know, like the dagger sticking out as well. And then the lamp that he has at the bottom. So it's just kind of like, oh, that's the problem. I don't know what I'm going to do with all these shavings. Some of the people in my online group, they're like, man, I wouldn't mind a toneberry shaped soap. I mean, I wouldn't use it. And I'm just like, maybe you'll pay me. I'm not thinking really that far, to be honest. But yeah, like the basswood here, it's nice and like it feels like a nice solid piece of wood. Like even when I got that far down, like that was just a lot of work. It took me 2 hours, like I said, to get them split like that. Go ahead and put this, because this is just a basket full of wood. And this is one of the wicker baskets. This is wicker, not plastic. It's treated with something because it doesn't feel like your typical wicker. I like the feel of it. It has that like almost plasticky feel. Like I said, like it feels like it's been treated with something. Sweaty and ugly and nasty because I just got back from the physical therapist, but anywho. So yeah, spent 2 hours trimming that down. Now I'm working on the moisturizing soap. That was an idea that somebody had that I thought was a really good idea. Because I was like, oh, okay, a moisturizing soap, maybe that it should like, okay. Because I've seen like a carving of somebody carving, I think it was like a dolphin out of a piece of soap. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Should be able to do that. And it's very interesting because here are the soap shavings, right? And, you know, some of them are on the larger side. And they're like, they're sturdy. But they have, you know, a little bit of brittleness to them too. And I was like, okay, so that, I don't like the smell. That's the only biggest problem. That's the biggest problem with them. But I'm just going to power through it, whatever, because it was like $9 for 8 of these fuckers. I'd rather something that's like maybe like Dove or whatever, where it has no real smell to it. It's just neutral. Like even Ivory soap, I don't really like the smell to it either. Never really have liked it ever since I was a kid. I'm like, whenever we walked through the department stores, and especially in the mall where I lived in my hometown, we'd always walk into one of the department stores first, and then as we were leaving the department store, it was the perfume counter, and it just fucking it was just a cloud of that shit, of just the smell. You couldn't see it, but it was just a cloud of smell. And I got to the point where I'd have to hold my fucking breath and like power walk, because you know I couldn't walk out faster than my mom, because at one point she might stop and start looking, and that always sucked. So for the time being, out, because these are kind of sharp, because I got to the point where I could like twist it and it broke, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, now I'm done with that. I was thinking I was gonna do, so smell wise, I've never really liked, you know, most perfumes for one, perfumes, soaps, shampoos, etc. I don't really like them that much. The coconut one I have, I like. I've always liked the smell and the taste of coconut. So, but yeah, so I can already tell like the amount of work that I put into this motherfucker. It's just it's kind of a cool little spiral pattern. But I was thinking while I was trimming this off, I was like, okay, if I tried to go height wise, if I tried to carve the Tonberry out of this, I don't think I'm gonna have enough space for it to have like the full experience of the Tonberry, because I want to have the lantern and I want to have the knife, and I'm, you know, my thinking is I want to have him not necessarily where he's out reaching with the knife, but like the knife is out far enough as if he's walking and about to stab you. Because like a lot of the images that I've seen, you know, he's kind of tucked in, and I want a little bit of further, like I just want his arms out just a little bit, just to kind of give it that extra dimensionality to the character. And so that's going to be a challenge with this, because, and one of the main reasons I'm using the soaps as I'm using them is so that I have an understanding of like general shaping. So like here, I'm working on the back end where his head is and his cloak, and then his tail sticks out because they have tails. They kind of, you know, like the older ones, especially Final Fantasy VI, they just kind of look like pudgy dudes. And there's not a whole lot of detail on the Tonberries. They're even called pugs. And it wasn't until Final Fantasy VII and on when they were always called Tonberries, because they're called Tonberries. I think the first one is in like Final Fantasy V. So I was like Tonberry, Pug, and then it's always been Tonberry since. And so like while in 7, I'd have to look back on them. I'm kind of basing it off of like the Final Fantasy X model, because it's just a little bit crisper, cleaner overall, and you know, you get a little bit more, you know, I'm sure I can get like some footage on YouTube, for instance, maybe take screenshots, whatever, if I need to get more roundabout viewpoints of what he looks like, so that I have a better understanding of how to properly cut the tail, to properly cut the cloak and everything. The wood obviously is going to be where the real challenge comes into play, because with the size of this blade, all right, just to give you an idea, where is it? Where's my other blade? My house utility blade. The blades are the same length, right? You know, I'm not counting like the basic part here. I'm just like looking at where the line is on this blade and how it kind of reaches out, and their lengths are the same. Like, that's a long blade to whittle. Now, if it was like half the length, it would be a little easier to work with details. So I've had to kind of readjust my expectations on how I'm going to approach this, because one of the things I don't want to do is make sawdust. I want to only make the chips, because with the chips, it's just easier to clean up, and just generally less of a problem. And then, you know, the potential of, you know, dirtying the place up and all that kind of crap, and that's the problem I'm thinking of. And so the thought is cuts and just general detailing is going to have to be on the bigger side. So I might have to, you know, like for the eyes, for instance, I might have to make them bigger than they generally are to kind of almost give them a caricature-esque look. The knife might have to be bigger, the lamp might have to be, you know, like the proportions may have to be exaggerated to a degree, not only because of the wood stock I'm working with, because it's 2x2, and then it was like 12 inches, and now they're slightly less than that. But you know what? Slightly less than half of 12 inches is still enough, and it's basically average. Don't worry. So yeah, I may have to exaggerate some of the dimensions, you know, kind of squish him a little bit. Maybe make his eyes a little bigger just so they can like stand out and be noticeable. But just as like a starting point, you know, so that I can get the technique down. Because like, as much as I want to just be able to start carving fucking toneberries, yesterday has definitely informed me that is not happening. Like, this is going to be a process of not only getting technique down, but then working within the sizes, like trying to get inside things, when to do that versus when not to. Like, so for instance, let's say I've decided, you know, on this side I'm going to do his knife, right? And I start trying to cut out his knife, but he needs to have a little space between him and the knife because it doesn't otherwise look right. Well, if I've effectively connected him and the knife, well, there's going to be like a gap on both sides. But depending on how far out I've got the knife, that will determine how much negative space I've got to work with as well. And that might be problematic if I cut off all this, which is supporting the arm onto the rest of the being. So I may have to cut into him first to carve him out, and then go, you know, onto the outside to start cutting the rest of the actual creature. And then, you know, start working on the exterior details, as it were. And that's going to be interesting and difficult, I would think, on the soaps, because like the soaps are kind of on the narrow side. So I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with that as well. And the soaps are all going to be about trial and error. You know, it's all about like, you know, how can I do this aspect? How can I do this aspect? How can I work? You know, it's like I started figuring out, oh, hey, I'm going to have to start probably cutting into the soap, maintaining the structural integrity on the exterior before, so that I can like maybe, and try to figure out how to get details out of the soap that way using a knife that is 3 inches long. Now, of course, you know, the curvature and everything, like I might be able to get details through that edge on the end like that. But these are the limitations that I'm working with, of course. So, you know, I'm already starting to discover, and what I find the most interesting is my outlook. I'm not looking at them as problems, which is strange for me. I'm looking at them as obstacles to overcome, not problems. And you know, it's interesting because I'm just now realizing it. I'm not even I wasn't realizing that 2, 3 hours, 12 hours later. I'm realizing that now that I'm changing my perspective on what could be considered a difficulty. My brain is not looking at it that way. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last. Who knows? So, you know, we'll see where it goes. And, you know, I'll have to figure out, you know, obviously, once I get, you know, it's like I wanted to do this first just to see, like, what I was dealing with when it came to the wood and, like, carving into it and how much I could trim off and all that stuff. And it's just like, this knife does a good job, but, like, this wood also isn't going to let you take big chunks out of it either. And especially you don't want to try to cut big chunks out of it. And so you've got to be able to figure out how to work it when things are a little awkward. And so if you'll notice, there's just kind of like radial pattern, because like I'd cut, and then like I'm working on the table and I don't want to cut into the table, I don't want to ruin it any more than I'm gonna potentially ruin it. And so like most of my cuts are kind of down and in, and so I'm rotating down and in, and then I'll try to rotate it around. And I'm just trying to work with what I've got, and so it ends up creating this kind of interesting sort of radial inward spiral. But so like that, those are some of the things that I'm going to have to contend with when it comes down to like the detail work. And having done that, it's a good learning point. I'm going to have to deal with more overall, of course. And so like I'm going to have to start over here on this end when I start trying to carve out the Tonberry. And the rest of this is going to have to be something else. Or, it's just, this is like, hey, I fucked up, let's start moving back. Who knows? It's going to be very interesting. Difficult, definitely. So I'm going to put this back real quick. Yeah, so the baskets were specifically intended for those. I've got more baskets. I've got more, organize-y type stuffs that I'm trying to implement into my life, because I also gotta, I don't have everything set for the next purchase, but I've already had a couple of things in my Amazon basket that I'm like, I definitely should get these. One of which is Hulu, because my physical therapy is going to be ending next week. So I'm going to have something to do while I'm here. And, with Turtle Wow fading away, I'm almost done with all of with just like the general approach to achievements. And, I've got like maybe 17 left or something like that, 17 quests remaining. And I might just go to one of the lower level areas that I can find, because I've done most of the low level stuff. Like all of the low level stuff I've done. Starting zones, done those. The next step to starting zones, done. The next step after those are done. And so, it's like there's only so many, low level, which means quicker quests, because a lot of them are like, especially in one of the areas that I'm currently located, it's like I want you to go all the way to the other end of the zone and like kill 8 or 10 of these guys, but also 8 or 10 of these guys, and then also 8 or 10 of these guys, and then come back, and that's one quest. And then sometimes it's like, hey, I need, once you did that one, now I need to go to another area and like talk to somebody or pick this thing up or whatever. So it starts to become more busy work, which is okay when you're actively trying to level. Because then, like, you go over there and you got to kill, 24 of these different types of mobs. Well, you're going to be getting experience the whole time. I'm not getting any experience for killing them. I'm getting experience, quote unquote, for turning in the quest. But then that experience is automatically turned into gold because I'm level 60. So, it's good when you're of level, but it's not that great when you're just trying to stack quests. But it is what it is. I'm just working with what I've got now, because I've kind of, finished off a lot of areas. So more or less what I'm trying to, and there is one section, one sort of like mid-range, like level 30-ish, 20 to 30-ish area that I haven't gone to yet. Mostly just because it's kind of a boring zone. It's the Shimmering Flats. Durotar, so to recap, there are 2 main continents in Classic World of Warcraft, which is what Turtle WoW is. It's Classic Plus. So you have the 2 main continents, and so from your view, Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor. Kalimdor is largely either boring or annoying, because it's got 2 kinds of zones, for the most part. It's got the more Night Elf-oriented foresty areas that are colorful and beautiful, but are also a goddamn nightmare to navigate, especially if you just want to go from, as the crow flies, so to speak. From going from point A to point B becomes a pain in the ass, because there's so many elevation variations when it comes to much of the Night Elf regions, like where most of the Night Elf locations are. Traversing them are a goddamn nightmare. You start from the very beginning in Darnassus. Sure, you have the first newbie area, no real hills or anything, right? But then you leave it, and then you're running around fucking hills and all that kind of shit, trying to get from one, from the minor city to the next and all this. And, then getting to the main city, going to Darnassus Central is also, like, sure, you can follow the road, but then if you're trying to go from the road to, like, a quest, and you go down, and it's just like, you have to follow the contours of the land and get into fucking, fights with shit, and it's just annoying. And then you're like, I just want to go from here to there, and I can see it on the map, but then there's a whole fucking mountain in the way or some shit, and you got to go around that shit. Okay, that's not much of an issue when it comes to Stormwind. Stormwind is largely not so much flat, but in a way, a lot of it is. But it's just largely not in your fucking way. Even the places where there are hills and the like, the detours are short. It doesn't feel like you're literally leaving the direction you're going just to get to a point. Darnassus is very much like that. Then you go over to, and again, this is more Night Elf area, you go to Aberdeen/Darkshore, because Darkshore, I think, is the actual name of the full zone. Again, much of it, especially central. So, like, you have the coast, which in of itself can be something of an asshole to navigate because the city is in the way. So, like, you could go from the bottom of Darkshore all the way up to the city without really ever dealing with terrain issues. But now the city's just in the fucking way. And you have to, like, navigate around the city, but, like, you don't get to go into it to navigate. You have to go around the city, because if you go into it, you've gone too far to navigate around the fucking city. And I know that there are, like, strategic aspects when it comes to, like, PvP and, trapping opponents and stuff like this, but, like, I just feel like the Night Elf stuff is just always in the goddamn way. And sure, you could technically go under the pier and pass up, like, the inn, but even then you can't continue because there's a building on the fucking hill to the point where it's, like, butting up to the edge of the hill that you cannot bypass on the ground unless you run through that building. And even if you do, even if you try to go through that building and you want to jump off and get back on land, you cannot get on the surf. It's still too vertical. So you're then in the water still before you can actually get to flat land. It's just a fucking annoying way to get around. And, like, that's how also the coloration is just, it's vibrant and verdant. But for me, as a colorblind person, where, like, greens and reds especially, or greens, reds, and yellows tend to often blur, I don't really see, like, the deviations where it makes it easier to get from point. So it's just annoying. Then you go down south into the Ashenvale area where Astronar, the Night Elf outpost, is. And then there's, like, Mistress Point or whatever the hell it's called, etc. Again, a lot of the same. There's valleys and sort of hills and stuff, and, like, it's easier for you to, like, oh, hey, I want to go over to where this water pool is. Oh, there's literally, like, just, I cannot traverse this. It's too vertical. I got to go all the way around, and then it just goes into this little valley, and you're like, I got to do the same fucking thing just to get out. And so there's, like, all these little traps and shit, and, like, there's no information on the map that shows this, really. It's you kind of see some topographical related things, but it's not very clear. And then Azshara, which is sort of your next, not really, but kind of next point, but that's, like, 40s plus, because, like, Astronar is, like, 20s, 30s, but not really into your 30s much. But Azshara is a fucking nightmare because it has basically 3 levels. And 2 of those levels are kind of normal-ish between each other. And then there's the third, which is the beach. but getting to it is a nightmare, or rather getting off of it is a nightmare. And then, getting from point, it's Azshara can fuck off with how difficult it is to traverse. Because if you get down below, you either A, run through a bunch of goddamn enemies just to get to the northern point of the area. And if you don't know where this ramp up is, it's the only one up. There's only one to get up into the other level, because if you pass it and you try to keep going, because it kind of has this like C shape, well, per your angle, it has this like C shape to it. And if you're down here and you're trying to keep to the bottom, or rather to the top end of it, because you've passed the point to get up into the other area, if you're continue going north, you missed the point, and then now you have to be on the water for a bit, because there are too many high, sharp, like too many vertical ledges and stuff. And even then, when you get past it, there's stuff in the water that can fuck with you. It's such a goddamn nightmare. At least winter, spring, once you are able to get there, because in order to get there, you got to go through fucking Fellwood, which is north of the, Ashenvale, Ashenheart place. But this is like a 50s plus only zone. Because like literally the first level, the lowest level mob is like level 50. And so you don't even want to fucking mess with it. If you've finished everything in Ashenvale, you still don't want to go there. It's just too high level. You go up into up to Fellwood, it's all fucking green, you've got all these diseased animals and all this kind of shit. And then, what you think you get to do is go through this tunnel to go over, into Winterspring, but you can't do that because now there are some Furbolgs that run that fucking place that'll just kill you on sight. So it's fucking annoying. But Shimmering Flats is down below the Barrens, and it's very barren, but also it's kind of like the Night Elf area where you have all of those, I can't remember what they're called, but they're there's those like natural formed pillars that just kind of cut off as a plateau at the top, because essentially what was happening is like long ago there was this giant lake area, and then it slowly started losing its elevation, and so it was cut off at the top, and as it became lower in elevation, it started creating pools and lakes and stuff and little islands all over the place, and those started wearing away the sides, and then wind started helping and all that. So you have all these natural formations, these natural stone pillars that are just all over the fucking place. I think it's called Thousand Needles, actually, and then Shimmering Flats is the other side of it. And it's boring, drab, brown. Like when you've done the Barrens, or you've done Westfall, or you've done Red Ridge, it's just so boring. But I'll probably do it anyway, just because I can get the quests done. And then, I'll be done with that. But the reason I brought up Warcraft in the first place is that soon I will be ending my time playing Warcraft. At least World of Warcraft. I may go back and play the original Warcraft 3, if I can find a copy of it. Because I bought it back in the day, or no, I had it from my cousin. I didn't buy it. But it doesn't matter, it was attached to my account. So, technically I owned it. But because I don't play with Blizzard anymore, like, I'll play with their old products, but I won't play with them. But for the time being, like, this is hopefully going to take up most of my time. I'll be watching podcasts and stuff anyway while I'm doing it, because, it's good to have... I can't focus on one thing. Like, if I'm just sitting there trying to carve on it, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. Yesterday, I cleaned all my dishes that were dirty, except for cast iron, because I'm just going to continue... Actually, I should pull that out. Let the dough start doing its thing, so that I can make some more pita. But I cleaned up everything last night while I was watching Hank Green talk to Baby No Money, which was a very interesting conversation. I'd never heard of the man before. It was a very interesting conversation. I liked it. I might have to listen to some of his stuff. Still got some, and because I thought this week was the busy week, I had the beans or the lentils and the rice and stuff, and then I've got to make my chicken so that I can then make the chicken stock so that I can have more rice using the chicken stock because I don't want the stock to go to waste. And now that I have the Instant Pot, I can make it soon after I have it. So that's good too. So, but yeah, it's I'm starting to kind of like figure some stuff out here. Most of I'd say about half my purchases are done. I don't want to dump too much of I want to use the gift card for the most part. Because then, it's like, that will be useful for most things. And then I can like put half of it, and I check the bank account, I can put some of that into the index funds and, save that up for August. And then, once next week happens and I go talk to the doctor and I go see my psychiatrist and I, finish up physical therapy, and I'm thinking I should probably get the hula hoop soon after. I should plan the purchase so that I get it soon after that, so that I don't like deviate too much from it, because the hula hoop will help with, core muscles and the associated muscles, around the buttocks. And doing it slow like that, it's not gonna help. You gotta be like fast, and you gotta get your rhythm down and all that kind of stuff. And hula hooping can be fun. So, I can do that while taking a break from carving or whittling, and while listening to watching a podcast or whatever the situation may be. So, yeah, I also want to make my eggnog, because while I don't need to, the sooner the better, because then that means I have a longer period of time for waiting. And I also have my funnels to pour it into the large, I kind of rinse one of these bad boys out just for the sake of it, so that I can store my eggnog in there. And I topped off my cold brew today, even though I wasn't intending to. I was like, I just want to see. I want to kind of wet the top grinds. So I think what I'll do this time is I may just what I might do, now that I'm thinking about it, I might just fill one of these up, put it up to the 1,500 mark, 1.5 liters, because that's about where it needs to be. Is that inside or outside? Can't tell. I don't even know what that is. I don't know if it's like a scratch or something. Bald, wide mouth. I can stick all my junk in here. Phrasing. What I'm thinking is I might fill it up to the to the 1,500 milliliter mark, and then just transfer the grounds as they are into the, let's fucking do that now. Screw it. Well, let's do it into this one. Since I'm thinking about it now, and the sink is cleanish. Where to put it, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I kind of want to do that just because I want to see how it all changes, if there's any real change to it. Like if it super dilutes it or what, or if it's just sort of another next step kind of, I don't know. I'm thinking what I could probably do though is the next time that I set this up, I probably could do this. Let's see, how close are we? Oh, wow. That's almost right on the money. Okay. So now, getting nice and close to each other. So I'll let you drain out a little bit. Oh shit. I gotta pour out just a little bit because it is too much. It hasn't soaked in either, so let's put it in the sink. So whatever overfill there is, overflow, just let it sit there for the moment. All right, yeah, because it's not going to be able to soak in because it's already relatively soaked up anyway. So I need to be a little bit more like half between the line below the 1500 and the 1500 itself. So, all right, well, good to know. So, here's my thinking, right? I've got the original version, original Coke, if you will. I'm gonna leave it as it is. I gotta get the lid for it though. Hold on a second. Let me take one of your feet off because I've got a paper towel there for some reason. Speaking of lids, this was the other way. So now I can just kind of wipe this bad boy down. All right. Whoa. I mean, look at that. It's a good idea, that's for sure. Let's wipe this down. Definitely a good idea. Let's also do yet another wipe down on the top, the cleaner side. Yep, definitely a good idea. Now, just have a bottle of cold brew with no filter in it. So now, what I might have to do, I'm going to have to do something about my booze. Maybe that would be good enough incentive for me to make my eggnog. So what I need then to do, I've got enough milk, that's definitely enough. So I'll just leave this out for now, it doesn't really matter. This one can go back. So I think it's 6 eggs for the eggnog. That is 5 eggs, so let's grab another one. Hey, let's use this knife, as one does. Ow. It wasn't me cutting myself with a knife, that was, felt like I was cutting myself up against the, one of the lids here. So, what I like to do is I'll take the knife here and then just kind of like stick it up, blade out, and just kind of cut into the little area next to the eggs here. And I always try to go all the way out to the end so that the final egg is also a little easier to get out. Start there, boom. Kind of like holds them in, but also prevents them from, you know, ejecting, as it were. So just grab one of you. So anything that might look like I should probably use it today. Can't really see any. Qualifies. All right. So there we go. I got 6 eggs. I got some milk. I mean, I'm not gonna make it on camera because I don't need to do that. Yeah, so I'll make the eggnog that way. I can kind of like, hell, I don't know. So I don't know how much space I'm gonna have for it. Oh shit, we'll see. I'll figure it out. I'll probably make it today and then just, you know, because I gotta do like the chicken and other stuff too, so I'll figure it all out while I'm not on camera. So oops, I wasn't up here, so have fun.